Hi! I already made a few videos about how important it is to service your fork regularly, and many of you were interested in this type of fork, probably because it's equipped on a large amount of bikes. So I decided to make a new video, this time a full service. We are going to disassemble every part of the fork. Don't worry, it's not that scary. You only need one specific tool, which looks like this, link in the description. So let's dive in and make our hand dirty. I'm going to skip the part where I'm removing the fork from the bike. So we start with unscrewing the two bottom bolts with a 10mm wrench. Then you can pull down the lower leg. Hopefully yours looks better than this one. The rust marks are because this bike was left outside for years before I bought it, and the water damaged it exactly around the rubber rings. The rust is not repairable, but you can prevent this by doing a quick maintenance at least twice a year, before and after winter. Now you need an SR Suntour key to remove the stanchion bolts. You can find the link to this one on the description. Try to be organized and make everything where it belongs. This spring does not look healthy. There are some grease on it, but unfortunately it's also rusty. Now remove the bolt from the leg, try not to damage the parts. So use WD-40 and a soft rag like me to remove the bolt if it's stuck. Don't forget to mark the order and the exact position of the seals. This is extremely important, especially if your fork is a bit more complex. At least this one has no rust on it, just covered with rusty grease, which can be cleaned. Now remove the other bolt and inspect the spring. This looks even worse than the previous one. Learn from my case, don't let your parts look like this. Unfortunately, this plastic tube can be removed, so I need to clean it on its place. Here you can see that it's pretty rusty on the inside as well. I'm going to start the cleaning process. The recommended solution for cleaning is isopropyl alcohol, but if you do not have that, you can use petrol as well, but the alcohol is a safer option. Try to clean the stanchions shiny like when it was new. Now continue with the inside. I pour a small amount of alcohol inside and try to mix it as hard as I can while blocking the hole on the bottom of the leg. Then let out the liquid. Repeat this at least 2 times and clean it with a rag. Take your time with the cleaning process. This is the most important step. The ideal place for this is a closed room, where there are not that many sand and dust particles in the air. So you can say that I'm doing it wrong. Let's see a little bit closer how the internal parts look like. I'm doing this service because the fork started to squeak, and now I know that it was because of the rusty springs. I need to clean and lube them as well as possible. I'm cleaning the spring with petrol and a toothbrush. Leaving it in a few minutes can help with the rust, but the one which has a rubber tube in it can be damaged, so do not leave it more than a few minutes. If yours is not rusty and not even dirty, maybe you only need to put some more lube on it, so this step could be skipped. But it's highly recommended to replace the grease if it looks rusty or dirty. I'm finishing the cleaning process with a disc brake cleaner. This evaporates much faster and helps to remove the petrol as well. I tried many brands and did not discover any difference between them apart from the price. So buy the one which is available for you. Last step is to clean with a rag. Here are my parts after this process. Pretty significant difference. Let it completely dry before starting to lube them. This Motorex grease is perfect for bearings, monoblocks, headsets and other parts where water can get in. So I started to use it here, but then I realized how pricey this grease really is and how rusty my springs are, so I applied a much cheaper grease on them. You should use the mentioned Motorex or some quality grease if your internal parts are in a better condition. Apply a great amount of grease on them, especially if you are not planning to do this process regularly. If you do not let your bike outside when it's raining, then it could resist longer without maintenance, but 2 services per year is a bare minimum. Here you see that I was not able to remove the rust marks from the inside. Not ideal, but the fork would work, so time to assemble it. Use your notes and check which end of the spring needs to face down, then insert it. Then tighten the top bolt, check if the springs works like before or better, and move to the next one. Oops, I just ran out of text, but the scene is still going, so this is the perfect moment to speak to you about today's sponsor, which fortunately can't show in, because I make these videos for fun and not for money. Here you have an extra step. The metal tube needs to be under the spring, so start with this one, then the spring and the top cap. Tighten all the way in and you are nearly ready. Ads are turned off on all of my videos, and I try to be as quick as possible in my tutorials. Not going to waste your time with nonsense chit chat. So let's get back to the reassembling process. Now let's move to the lower leg. These seals need to be as clean as possible. Then apply a small amount of quality grease on it. Here it really needs to help with water, because here is the only access point for any liquid. Try to make it even with your hand, and when you are ready, after inspecting that the stanchions are still clean, you can push the lower back onto its place. Be sure to orient it in the correct direction, not to make your bike look like this. Now put back the two bolts on the bottom and you are ready. At the first few compressions you should see some excess grease on the stanchions. Clean them and now you are ready to roll. The bolts on the top can be adjusted, but mine does not make any difference, no matter how tight or loose I set them. On these cheaper coil spring forks you can't really change how stiff or plush to be with the knob, only by changing the spring. Thanks for watching, hope it was useful. See you in the next one.